The opinions and views expressed by individuals during this broadcast are their own. They may not be the opinions of this network, their groups, or other organizations they may be involved in.
Meditation, ganja, my brain. Ganja, we take away my stress and strain. Ganja, my meditation, ganja in my brain. Marijuana, take away my stress and pain. Ganja, my meditation, ganja in my brain. Marijuana, take away the stress and pain. Ganja is the medication, ganja is the cure. Police of them a fight the marijuana for sure. Purify me heavens and they make me feel pure. 100 way to Cali, we be bring it on tour. Ganja in the meditation, ganja in my clothes. No offense, I'm smoking marijuana around you. Ganja in me daily, ganja me currency. Ganja is the currency and daily pay. Give me the revelation, it's not to get too much when it's been growing. So now that's what we call it.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the Ganja News Update for this Monday, November the 17th, 2025. And we are at episode 145 today here on NOK Network, the video news podcast focused on cannabis news being reported in mainstream media. And I'm joined by my amazing host right now here live tonight on Ganja News Update, Tara Simpson. And hello, Tara. How are you this evening?
I'm great, Ron. It's good to be on live tonight. Something that doesn't happen often around here. We usually do a pre-record on Mondays, sometimes Sundays, and this week we were supposed to apparently do a pre-record Sunday.
Yep.
And then apparently both of us gapped because neither of us realized till you messaged me in the afternoon on Sunday and said, "Hey."
Great.
Great. And I went, me too. So, I mean,
Yeah.
here we are. We're live. That's a great thing about being able to kind of make our own schedule as long as we get it in there by 8 o'clock on Monday, whether we're live or pre-recorded, it's all good.
Yep. So, I was saying it was a good thing it was the pre-record that I missed on and not the live tonight. So, because missing it's supposed to happen, you can't really do the show.
I'm sure there. By about 5 after 8, messages would have been flying from the boardroom.
Oh yeah. Where are you guys? You guys are supposed to be on. So, oops.
Whoops.
But no, we are here tonight. So I'm excited. We've got some great stories here tonight, and I've had, I can't believe it. It's been another week. Like how did it become Monday again?
Time flies, Ron. I don't get it either. Like sometimes it's like during the day, like time will move so slow, but like the whole week is gone before you know it. And I don't know how that happens, but it can stop. I'm not ready for it to be winter. Like if anything, we need a reverse button. Let's go back to like July. July would be perfect. July was a fun month. There was a lot happening in July.
Oh yeah. 7-10 Stoner
right
games.
Between racing and the Stoner Cup games. I mean, we were busy in July. Lots happening. So,
and I wore my network shirt. Right, I wore my NFB Network shirt tonight, but you know what? I almost wore the Stoner Game shirt.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
I almost wore some hat.
I'm in my comfy fuzzies.
I like what you're wearing better. I like what you're wearing better.
Mushroom jammy pants on too, but you can't see them.
Now, the real question is: have you got psychedelic mushrooms? Forget the pants. Forget the pants. The mushrooms. That's what I'm after. Oh, there you go. There you go. Oh, right on. Right on. There we go. And just quickly before we get into the stories here tonight, talking about time flying by, did you know that 2 weeks today is December 1st?
I'm not even ready for that either. That means like Christmas is literally 25 days after that.
I know.
That's insane.
I know.
And,
I'm
and
not
my
ready.
daughter's
I'm not
25th
ready.
birthday is two days before Christmas. So,
Oh,
like,
wow.
yeah. Courtney was almost a Christmas baby. Almost.
Wow.
Almost. Yeah. She's the 23rd. So yeah, like things are just moving. And before we know it, the new year will be here. It's wild. Like I don't know
I
where
know.
the time goes, but it can stop, slow down, let us relax a bit here.
Oh, I know. I turned 50 2 years ago, and 60. I see it on the horizon already. It's there. It's just over the hill. I got it.
remember hitting 40 and thinking, geez, okay, enough. Now I won't get into how old I am. I'm somewhere in that between 40 and 50 range. But I'm not looking to be 50. I mean, I have a few years yet, but it's getting scary. It's getting real. Like,
right.
where do
I thought you were 29. I thought you were 29.
29. I'm forever
29, right?
Right.
I'm talking about numbers. It's actually 38 days to Christmas.
Oh,
38 days.
Gross.
I'm not ready.
Not ready for that.
But you know what? Talking about time is ticking away here right now. So I think it's time to get to our top stories in cannabis news tonight. How about we get at it, right? Okay, and we've got a great story here from about a company that we've reported on in the past for some other reasons, but they're still they're moving ahead with some more stuff here. And this story here is coming to us from SteinbachOnline.com. Tobagrown urges Steinbach and Winkler to revisit cannabis retail bans. And this was written by Aftenberg on Thursday, November the 13th. And there's Jesse Lavoie right there over on the back row left. And I believe you and Kim have interviewed him before. Or maybe it was, no, it was Sir Steve-O, I think.
Yeah, I would think it would have been probably on Peace News and Views that they would have, because the name sounds familiar, but I know it wasn't psychedelic related, so it wouldn't have been me.
Yeah, no. Now that it's cannabis. It was definitely Sir Steve-O and Kim. So anyways, so here we go. So yeah, Jesse Lavoie, he's the one who is headed up Tobagrown, and the story goes on here to say local motorists may have noticed a sign on Highway 52 between Mitchell and Randolph advocating for cannabis sales in the southeast. Jesse Lavoie, owner of Tobagrown, has been a longtime supporter for cannabis access and education in Manitoba. After challenging the province's ban on personal cannabis cultivation in 2020, a case that eventually led to the ban being lifted, he's now turning his attention to Steinbach and Winkler. A tough sell. Lavoie says it's time for Steinbach and Winkler to reconsider their bans on cannabis retail. Steinbach and Winkler are the third and fourth largest cities in Manitoba, Lavoie explains. He says Steinbach has not yet expressed interest in revisiting the issue. And during an April meeting, the Steinbach City Council voted against holding a new plebiscite on retail cannabis. And some councillors said the request came from a non-resident business owner and that there has been little local demand, while others maintain the decision should rest with residents. And following those comments, Tobagrown began collecting signatures. There's a quote here from Lavoie saying, "We went and gathered over 100 signatures from Steinbach residents and have been sending those letters to the mayor and city council almost every day since."
Wow. Despite growing local support, he feels that Steinbach's council remains resistant to discussion. Lavoie's notes open dialogue around cannabis is needed to break the stigma. However, Winkler, Lavoie says, has shown signs of change. After we sent Winkler Town Council a letter, they let us do a presentation, and they're voting later this month, he says. Calls for change. Lavoie said it's time for some of Manitoba's larger cities to reconsider their bans on cannabis retail. What we like to advocate for is not to create conflict, but to bring education and facts to the table. He believes the addition of legal cannabis sales has improved Canada's GDP, decreased the crime rate, and lowered law enforcement costs. We believe federal legalization for recreational cannabis has done tremendous things for the country. Yes, for recreational, yes. Medical, not so much. Right.
And we also reported, I believe it was last week, about the crime rates decreasing too.
Correct.
Since legalization. And if the crime rates are decreasing, then obviously law enforcement costs would be decreasing along with that. With respect to that.
Right. Or
medical definitely
to do the policing. So of course the crime rate's down because it's not a crime if you're not caught, right? There is that too. And is it just drug-related crime? Because as far as I'm concerned, it looks like violent crime and other crimes seem to be up around all of Canada right now. So right. So how true are those facts? I'd like to see more in-depth numbers on all of that. Turning over a new leaf, the original 2018 vote that banned cannabis dispensaries in Steinbach came just 1 week after national legalization, a time when Lavoie says uncertainty was high and data was scarce. Now, 7 years later, we have robust evidence. We're asking Steinbach to update its decision based on evidence, not speculation of the unknown, Lavoie says. Tobagrown plans to launch a liquor, gaming, and cannabis authority approval petition early in the new year, promoting cannabis education and awareness. Overall, our goal is to allow local businesses to thrive in Steinbach. Having an opportunity to present to council in early 2026 would be another goal of ours. And that's cool because they're still very much a prohibition area of Canada. And it's sad. It's sad. It doesn't need to be that way, right? The numbers are there. Exactly. In fact, we're talking Winnipeg, right? Like this Manitoba is Winnipeg. I've been to Winnipeg. I drove to Winnipeg for a cannabis event pre-legalization in Canada. And there is a robust amount of medical patients and cannabis enthusiasts in Winnipeg. I can tell you that. I know because I was there that whole weekend. And it was called Unity Cup. I don't know if those events still happen out there, but I was at Unity Cup. Yeah,
I haven't heard of it, so I guess I would have to say it probably doesn't. But then again, I don't live out that way anyway, so I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's very, very interesting with that, and so good luck for Tobagrown on their pursuit on proper access to this plant for people, right?
Absolutely.
Anyways, we're going to move over to our next story. Do you mind starting this one off for us, please?
For sure. This one comes to us from marijuanamoment.net. Trump signs bill to recriminalize hemp THC products years after approving their legalization. And this was written on November 12th of this year by Kyle Yager. President Donald Trump has signed a spending bill that includes provisions to ban most consumable hemp products. Following a historic weeks-long government shutdown, the Senate approved the appropriations package on Monday to fund critical agencies. The House of Representatives followed suit on Wednesday, voting 222 to 209 to pass the bill. Tucked inside the legislation is a controversial section to recriminalize hemp products containing THC that have proliferated since the crop was legalized under the 2018 Farm Bill that Trump signed during his first term in office. The president's latest action reverses that move. Representative Andy Harris, a Republican, who championed the prohibition in the House, said on the floor ahead of the vote that the provision closes the hemp loophole that has resulted in the spread of unregulated, intoxicating hemp-derived products that are being sold online and in gas stations and corner stores across the country. Many of these products are accessible and attractive to children, he argues. Hemp advocates have said, however, that the ban will apply even to non-intoxicating CBD products that people use for medical reasons. While the hemp ban is only one component of the proposal, a White House spokesperson said on Monday that the president supports the specific language. There were attempts by GOP lawmakers in both chambers to strike the hemp prohibition provision, but the proposed amendments from Senator Rand Paul, Republican, and Thomas Massie, Republican, did not make it to the final package. That said, the bill, as drafted, makes it so hemp provisions won't be implemented until 1 year after enactment. Stakeholders and certain lawmakers, such as Senator Chris Van Hollen, Democrat, says that the window could provide an opportunity to advance legislation to create an alternative regulatory model for consumable hemp products. Wow. So they're taking a little step back because of all the illegal, non-regulated products. Yep. But what it's going to do is shut down their entire industry down there. And now they have to fight to be able to rebuild it, even though legitimate businesses are supposed to be able to do this. But it's going to affect all of them from the sounds of it. Yeah. And that's what they have an issue with.
Right.
Rather than doing enforcement on all of these non-regulated products and places they're being sold, let's just punish everyone.
Yep. This has got everyone up in arms and everyone talking right now. This is the topic of the day, of the week, across Facebook and all the cannabis activist groups and all that. This has the potential to be very devastating.
Yeah, this is going to screw up a lot of people's businesses down there.
Right.
Yeah.
And actually, this story here is a follow-up on a story that we were supposed to have done today, that we were going to carry over from last week, because the story from last week was that they were talking about the congressional deal, that this was up for review, but now this has actually passed. So this is an updated story to the one that we were supposed to cover, which has some looks like devastating effects. Absolutely. But only time will tell, I guess, and we'll have to follow up on things later on as this progresses. But yeah, Jim Higdon, co-founder of the company Cornbread Hemp, told Marijuana Moment this week that industry advocates will work to do just that. We can get a bill through Congress next year before this 365-day deadline, he said, and it's time for everybody to come together and focus on what we can get passed in Congress to remediate the worst of it. On the Senate side, Paul was joined by 22 Democrats, and notably anti-marijuana Senator Ted Cruz, Republican, in voting against a motion to table the amendment to prevent the ban, but the majority ultimately quashed it. Massey tried to revive the push in the House with his own amendment mirroring Paul's, but the prospects of its adoption were dubious at best, as there was generally consensus within the Republican caucus that the spending bill should advance without further modifications that could have sent it back to the Senate. Since 2018, cannabis products have been considered legal hemp if they contain less than 0.3% Delta 9 THC on a dry weight basis. The new legislation specifies that within 1 year of enactment, the weight will apply to total THC, including Delta 8 and other isomers. It will also include any other cannabinoids that have similar effects or are marketed to have similar effects on humans or animals, as tetrahydrocannabinol or THC, as determined by the Secretary of Health and Human Services. The new definition of legal hemp will additionally ban any intermediate hemp-derived cannabinoid products which are marketed or sold as a final product or directly to an end consumer for personal or household use, as well as products containing cannabinoids that are synthesized or manufactured outside of the cannabis plant or not capable of being naturally produced by it. Legal hemp products will be limited to a total of 0.4 milligrams per container of total THC or any other cannabinoids with similar effects. Within 90 days of the bill's enactment, the Food and Drug Administration, the FDA, and other agencies will need to publish a list of all cannabinoids known to FDA to be capable of being naturally produced by a cannabis sativa L plant as reflected in peer-reviewed literature. All tetrahydrocannabinol class cannabinoids known to the agency to be naturally occurring in the plant, and all other known cannabinoids with similar effects to or marketed to having similar effects to tetrahydrocannabinol class cannabinoids. The language slightly differs from provisions included in legislation that had previously advanced out of the House and Senate appropriations panels, which would have banned products containing any quantifiable amount of THC to be determined by the HHS Secretary and Secretary of Agriculture. Meanwhile, advocates are sharply criticizing congressional leaders for advancing the spending bill ahead of Veterans Day on Tuesday that also omits bipartisan provisions allowing U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs or VA doctors to recommend medical cannabis to patients in states where it's legal, even though the policy was approved by the full Senate and House earlier this year. Wow. What a big step backwards, in my opinion.
Oh, 100%. And everyone with a legal business down there is probably scrambling as well, because now there's all sorts of new changes and limitations and yeah.
Yep. There's right now, I think more so it's just a total sea of uncertainty, because
I think you're right.
The true facts of it all aren't published yet. Some of this is speculation. But in most cases, that speculation turns out to be true.
Right, because they haven't brought all of it to fruition. They're just discussing that this is the way it's going to be, and these are the possibilities. But once they start enacting things, it could be a whole entire shit show.
And if it's being talked about, it's being talked about. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. They wouldn't talk about it if they weren't going to do it.
So there's no hiding that. Yep. That's exactly where I was going with that one. So anyways, we're moving on here to our last right? Yeah. We're moving on to our last story here before the break. And this one here is from MJ Biz Daily. And kind of follows up along with this previous story. What happens if states ignore the federal hemp THC ban? And this one was written on November 13th and updated on November 15th by MJ Biz Daily staff. Regulated cannabis interests are celebrating the end of the Farm Bill loophole that launched the massive nationwide market for intoxicating hemp THC products. But what happens if lawmakers and business leaders at the state level simply ignore the ban? According to Columbus-based ABC5, that's the question now being asked openly in Ohio, where regulated marijuana sales began last year. That's despite ongoing competition from hemp-derived THC products sold at smoke shops and gas stations, and initial approval from state lawmakers for popular hemp-derived beverages. Who will enforce federal hemp THC prohibition? Following the lead of states like California, in October, Republican Ohio Governor Mike DeWine issued an executive order to ban hemp-derived THC at the state level. But DeWine's ban is currently held up in the courts. In the meantime, Ohio lawmakers are trying to regulate hemp THC under state law as they do marijuana. And there's a quote here saying, "We're still trying to figure out how to implement what's going on at the federal level. So I think that may be pumped. So I think that maybe pump the brakes a little bit while we try to figure out how to proceed based on that." That was according to Republican State Representative Tex Fisher told ABC that. And meanwhile, as MJBiz Daily reported, there's the question of enforcement. Right?
Right. Yeah. Federal law currently bans the medical and adult use cannabis programs seen across the country. If the $32 billion legal marijuana industry is illegal under federal law but still exists, what's to stop the estimated $28.3 billion hemp sector from continuing on despite federal prohibition? While marijuana is still illegal for purposes of federal law, the federal government doesn't have the resources, doesn't have the personnel to go after individual retailers, individual buyers, let alone individual users, said Jonathan Alder, a law professor at William and Mary and an Ohio market observer, according to ABC5. Even hemp opponents think THC beverages are here to stay. Well, I would agree, because we saw this happen in Canada. It started in Legacy. They were making weed beverages before weed beverages ever saw the inside of a store shop. So
yeah,
and it was done
and in the States,
approval, right?
Yeah. In the States, Target is selling the hemp-derived THC drinks.
No shit. Really? That's kind of neat. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, there's not. I don't think it's cross everywhere. Well, actually, this story mentions that.
Yeah. So, even supporters of strict enforcement are admitting a measure of defeat. That includes Republican State House Speaker Matt Huffman, who believes the immensely popular hemp-derived THC beverage sold at major retailers like Target and Circle K will continue to be sold, according to ABC5. State lawmakers still aren't sure what form enforcement of the federal hemp-derived THC ban will take at the state level, if any. Now, are we going to go around and start handcuffing 17-year-old clerks at gas stations? Huffman asked, according to ABC5. No, but we've got to get this thing in shape. President Donald Trump on Wednesday signed into law the ban, which takes effect in November of 2026. That didn't stop a slide in stock prices for publicly traded marijuana multi-state operators, according to the Wall Street Journal. Cannabis and hemp playing by the same rule, including a 280E. So I'm not sure what this bill is, but it says it could simply mean hemp-derived THC products would have to play by the same patchwork and sketchy rules as cannabis. State-regulated cannabis programs are, after all, also illegal under federal law and have not attracted a crackdown from federal law enforcement, such as the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration. But as a Schedule I drug, hemp operators could have to contend with the onerous tax rules imposed by Internal Revenue Code 280E. This will create some opportunities in hemp-friendly states while also sowing chaos in a lot of legal gray areas that will be difficult to enforce. Rod Knight, a California-based attorney and expert in hemp law, told MJBiz Daily on Thursday. So it sounds like it's going to be a whole lot of we don't really fucking know.
Yep. And really, what will happen if the states ignore?
Right.
That's what I thought.
And if they do, they can't go after them all. And they're right. If all the states just say, fuck yous, FDA, we're not listening to
Like,
you.
what are they going to do?
Right.
What are they going to do? Go and arrest everybody? Like, do a big roundup?
Exactly. They can't. They don't have the resources. But will they make examples of people? I think they will, because fear goes a long way into controlling people and the general public, right? So if they make a few high-profile arrests and, really throw the books at those people, then everyone else may cower to the government's, ways of dealing with the problem, right? They'll spend millions to handle those couple of cases to scare the entire industry. So again, if you all just stay strong and just band together and say, no, we ain't going to take this, and the hemp's here to stay, and you keep doing legacy like everyone does in every part of the world, that was there long before legalization, they can never take control down, right?
Yeah, because I was just going to say, this is all a fight over a plant that was never illegal to begin with.
Right.
It only became illegal because of laws that were enacted to make it illegal.
Exactly.
Prior to that, everyone had free access to it.
Right. And why did they make it illegal? Maybe because it's good for us. Right. Yeah. And the only reason we have it legal here now is because they saw money, not because it's good for us. They just want some money from it all.
Right. All about money.
Right.
Anyways, guess what? It's medication time. We've reached that portion of the show, and I sure could use a bit of a bong hit right now. And
yeah, that's right. It's time to pay some bills. So stay tuned for a word from some of our sponsors, and we'll return with more articles making mainstream media news.
That's right. In fact, Ray will be back in just a few minutes. In fact, 4 minutes and 20 seconds here on Ganja News Update on NOK Network. Cheers.
Advertising space available at NOK. Contact us for a rate sheet at knocknetwork.com. Send us a message on our social media platforms or email us at info@noknetwork.com.
Join us for NOK Network monthly specials, 12 months a year. Movie night. spotlights on entertainment, and live on location coverage. Stay up to date about upcoming programming by subscribing to NOK Network on Rumble, YouTube, X, LinkedIn, Twitch, and Facebook. Check out our webpage at www.noknetwork.com.
Hey, hi, my name is John Mark, aka Sublimated Warrior, and I would like to welcome you to Smoke Signal in Tyndinaga.
One dab make your whole dome drip sweat. One dab make the homies all dip set. One dab, only really need one dab. One dab.
Smoke Signal is a medical dispensary where you can get all your products and needs.
Vaping a whole bunch. Might just start laying up the blunts. God. Ooey, ooey, gooey, that's a sticky dab. Sticky dab. Might just have to put this one on Instagram. Go and hold it in, feel it in your ribs.
So come and check us out in Tyndinaga. 55 Highway 49 in Tyndinaga. It's on the res, and we're open from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. 7 days a week.
Now we get back to the show.
And we're back from our medication session live here on Ganja News Updates on NOK Network.
That's right. And we have another set of stories coming at you making cannabis news. So let's get at it. And here we go. Do you mind starting this next one out for us, Tara?
Sure. So this one comes to us again from marijuanamoment.net. There's no reason to increase legal age for marijuana use to 25, new scientific paper concludes. And this was written November 10th by Kyle Yeager. The theory that marijuana use can negatively and potentially permanently rewire the brain up until a person reaches the age of 25 is based on a misleading science that neglects to account for key factors in cognitive maturity, according to a new research paper. Wow, that's interesting. The study, published on Monday in the American Journal on Drugs and Alcohol Abuse, examined the scientific literature around neurodevelopment. While most U.S. states prevent people under 21 to access adult use cannabis products, some public health advocates are pushing to the legal age limit to 25. But researchers who are affiliated with the advocacy group Doctors for Drug Policy Reform concluded that those proposals would not meaningfully prevent adverse mental health outcomes for consumers. Invoking age 25 as a bright line for brain maturity is not supported by neuroscience, they wrote. Cannabis policy should reflect evidence and fairness, not mythology. So that's really interesting, eh? Because they've told us,
right?
You know,
now this is talking about. Yeah, I know that's the story. It's going to harm the developing brain. Now they're talking about in this story here, 18 to 25-year-old. Now I have heard from other researchers in that the evidence for even cannabis harming the developing brain for under the age of 18 is very patchy. It's not conclusive from what I've heard from this one person. That's one person. But here's another study that's talking about 18 to 25. Is it the same? I don't know.
Right. It's interesting because there's a quote here that says, based on current evidence, an MLA between 18 and 21 is both scientifically and socially defensible. The paper states there's no empirical defined neurodevelopment endpoint at age 25, as brain maturation is a non-linear process, region-specific, influenced by sex and specific physiological processes, which we all know to be true. I mean, there's many kids at 18 that go off to college and university and got their shit together. And then there's a lot of 18-year-olds that don't know what they even want for breakfast yet, right? Like there's a whole wide range of development. And again, that's, can be a lot of contributing or lack of things contributing to that development, right? So is that 18-year-old the same as the one who's shit together and is going to be a neuroscientist off at university, right? Like,
Right.
Yeah. And then, I mean, there's 30-year-olds that still don't have their shit together. So
well, we were talking that before the show. It was like, here at 30 years old, I already had all 4 of my kids. I had my shit together.
Right.
As much as one can have their shit together at that time. Right.
Yeah. I mean,
but
I hear you. I was raising kids then too, right? Like, yeah. And then there's some 30-year-olds that are out there that, again, can't even manage to pay their bills and like be responsible adults. And I'm like, wow, yeah. So it's hard to say. Again, there is no
it's
endpoint to a brain developing. I mean, even my brain's still developing, in my opinion. We're constantly advancing.
Oh yeah.
So hard to say. And I smoke weed.
When you don't, right? And when you don't use your brain effectively, like for active mind, like to keep your mind active in that, you actually lose brain cells. Your brain atrophies.
Absolutely. You don't use it.
There's things that you can do outside. Right, exactly. Now, weed, like cannabis or some psychedelics and mushrooms, and that are they can create new neural pathways, but there's also many other ways to create new neural pathways too.
Yeah.
It's just that cannabis and mushrooms are one of the easiest ways to do it, but there's a whole lot of other ways that you can do that through food and health choices and that in life, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So, anyway, I digress. So anyways, I guess I'll carry on from here a bit. Importantly, existing evidence does not demonstrate greater long-term cognitive or neurophysical harm attributable to cannabis use in individuals 18 to 25 years compared to those older than 25, it says. The researchers reviewed data on the macrostructural and microstructural development of the brain, which shows that such maturation is mostly complete by the end of adolescence, around age 18. Other more subtle development changes continue throughout the third decade of life. The often cited claim that brain development ends at 25 is not clearly supported by primary neuroscientific literature, it says. Despite widespread assertions, there is no clear neurobiological or patient-centered evidence to support a minimum legal age above 21 years. It continues. While subtle brain development continues into the third decade of life, most key milestones are reached by age 18 to 21. There's a quote here: available data do not show that cannabis use between the ages of 21 and 25 confers uniquely severe or irreversible harm compared to use beginning after 25. Nevertheless, given the rapidly changing conditions, the increasing use of cannabis by young adults, and the higher THC concentrations being consumed, research is needed to further examine longitudinal trajectories of cannabis use, neuroanatomic, neurophysiologic, and neurocognitive outcomes, and comparative harms across ages to refine evidence-based recommendations for MLAs that minimize risks while avoiding unintended social consequences. For what it's worth, although U.S. states have broadly imposed a 21-year-old age limit to buy cannabis for adult use, other foreign jurisdictions such as Canada and Germany have set the limit younger at age 18. Now, I do believe that at least in the federal limit is 18, but each province is able to make up their own rules with regards to that. And I do believe Quebec started out at 18 and they changed it to 21.
Yeah, but I think isn't there
And I
drinking
think there is another
there as well, though?
No, their age for drinking is 18.
Oh, is it? Okay, so that's interesting. That
for Quebec, I believe.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, I wasn't sure.
That's changed too, but I don't believe it is.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't believe it is.
Interesting.
But yeah, when legalization first happened in 2018, yeah, but it was initially 18 when legalization first happened.
Right.
And then later on they changed it.
Yeah. And I know here in
21.
Ontario it's 19. I don't know about like out west what their age limit is, but I would assume it's 19.
Yeah, I would assume too. Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyways, and while proponents of raising the age limit argue that it would mitigate brain issues with younger people, studies have also consistently indicated the very policy of legalization itself has deterred underage use. For example, a recent federally funded study out of Canada showed that youth marijuana use rates have declined after the country legalized cannabis, contradicting concerns voiced by prohibitionists, and we covered that last week. Study was released about 3 months after German officials released a separate report on their country's experience with legalizing marijuana nationwide. And that report found that fears from opponents of youth use, as well as traffic safety and other concerns, have so far proved largely unfounded. And a separate study suggested a separate recent study conducted by German federal health officials also found that rates of marijuana use declined among youth after the country legalized adult use cannabis, contradicting one of the more common prohibitionist arguments against the reform.
That's
right? So these are all unfounded.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Back in July, federal health data also indicated that while the past year marijuana use in the U.S. overall has climbed in recent years, the rise has been driven by increases among adults 26 years or older. As for younger Americans, rates of both past year use and cannabis use disorder, by contrast, remain stable among adolescents and young adults between 2021 and 2024. While the U.S. research suggests that marijuana use by young people has generally fallen in states that legalize the drug for adult use. A report from the advocacy group Marijuana Policy Project, for example, found that youth marijuana use declined in 19 out of 21 states that legalized adult use marijuana, with teen cannabis consumption down an average of 35% in the earliest states to legalize. The report cited data from a series of national and state level youth surveys, including the annual Monitoring the Future survey, which is supported by the National Institute on Drug Abuse. The latest version of the MTF, released late last year, found that cannabis use among 8th, 10th, and 12th graders is now lower than before the first states started enacting adult use legalization laws in 2012. There was also a significant drop in perception by youth that cannabis is easy to access in 2024, despite the widening adult use marketplace. Interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. So Yeah, very interesting to see all this stuff coming out, and
Absolutely.
we shall see where things go with regards to this. Will legislation follow appropriately, or will they still take a heavy hand at it?
It's
I
hard
don't
to
know.
say.
But anyways, right. What I do know is we're going over to our next story, and this one here is coming to us from the BBC, and it was published 2 days ago by Will Fife. He takes medical cannabis every day, but worries people think he's a lazy stoner. And the story is about this gentleman right here, John Leader. And every morning, John Leader wakes up, has some breakfast, then takes some cannabis before heading to his office job. The 41-year-old from Caer, I don't know if I'm saying that right, Caerphilly in South Wales, uses medical cannabis to help with his anxiety, but until agreeing to speak to the BBC, nobody John worked with realized he took it. I was a little nervous. Are they going to start thinking you come to work stoned? John said. John, one of the estimated tens of thousands of people in the UK with private cannabis prescriptions. The NHS has said the risks of medical cannabis are unclear, while one leading psychiatrist warned it could be harming some patients. Yeah, so can the psychiatric drugs that they throw at everyone too, right? I digress on that one. Private, I'm going to get back to the story. Private clinics are prescribing high potency cannabis for people with psychiatric disorders such as depression and PTSD. Professor Sir Robin Murray, former president of European Psychiatric Association, told the BBC. There's a lot of evidence that high potency cannabis makes these conditions worse and indeed suicidal, he added. Cannabis can only be prescribed by a specialist consultant with proof that other treatments haven't worked. I still don't get that one. Like,
Right.
why is it the last resort?
Yeah.
Like,
When it has
oh my
the
goodness.
least amount of side effects. And again, this like, oh, it can
Right.
make these conditions worse and indeed suicidal. Quite the opposite. Quite the opposite.
Yeah. I'm sure that there's probably something else going on there with that. But hey, anyways, cannabis flower or buds have hardly ever been prescribed on the NHS since the law had changed to allow it for medicinal reasons in 2018. But there is a growing private industry. Most patients we spoke to were paying a few £100s per month to get cannabis. Some patients, like John, said that using medical cannabis gave them the benefits they'd hope to get from medication, such as antidepressants, right? Getting behind the wheel of a car through security at an airport, or even into a bar or club, or all things patients say they have to think about carefully. And they must remember to always take their prescription to avoid being criminalized. Some say they still live in fear of being stopped by police, dismissed from their jobs, or even losing access to their children because of what they described as stigma attached to cannabis. One patient told the BBC she had a letter from her neighbor complaining about the smell of cannabis coming from her flat. I was scared, admitted Kat Turner, 26, who puts pillows in front of her door in an attempt to stop the smell spreading. And there's a quote there saying, I feared my neighbors would call the police, right?
Yeah, and it looks like from the quote underneath, she suffers seizures. So,
Right. So it's a well-needed medicine that works well for her. And there's her face. I chose this story because this is putting names and faces.
Yeah.
To
absolutely.
real life problems that patients have to deal with. Right. All because of crazy legislation. Anyways, I'll let you carry on.
Okay. They could have called the police. That was my fear. I use my front door as little as possible. I'm afraid of any smell going into the communal areas. Cat takes cannabis after being diagnosed with functional neurological disorder, but after the but the drug can also be prescribed for things like post-traumatic stress disorder, OCD, anxiety, and depression. John admitted he was nervous about telling his work. He took medical cannabis for his anxiety, but he thought his bosses might think he'll be working doped up. In films and comedy programs, it's funny to depict people who smoke weed as lazy and clumsy, John said. But really, that's not how it is. It just calms me down a little. John works for one of the country's largest employers and said they have been really incredibly supportive, but asked him not to name them. Patients and clinics that prescribe cannabis say there's little public awareness. Cannabis can be legal with a prescription, and John was worried that some people think of a lazy stoner when talking about someone who uses cannabis. He was first given medical cannabis after a mental health breakdown in his late 30s. I'll get big spikes in my anxiety, dwell on random incidents from the past, and start panicking about the most random things, said John. Weed stops all of that for me. John, who was recently diagnosed with autism and is awaiting a possible ADHD diagnosis, said he was prescribed cannabis flower, the industry term given to cannabis bud. One condition for John being able to access this treatment is that the buds must be vaped in a special cannabis vaporizer rather than smoked. Oh, shit. Where'd it go? Oh, you're going to have to take over because now my phone's being stupid.
The most recent data suggests there were more than 50,000 private cannabis prescriptions in July 2024, with figures expected to have grown since then. It is not just Kat's neighbors who questioned her cannabis usage. She was also not allowed to take her medicinal cannabis into hospital last year. She says her functional neurological disorder means she can lose total control of her body, suffering intense tics and seizures. The insurance worker from South Wales was given a 3-week inpatient rehabilitation appointment at a specialist NHS unit in Bristol. But she told us, despite informing staff before arrival, when she got to the hospital, she was told she would not be allowed her cannabis. In our hospital here in North Bay, you are not allowed to have cannabis.
Really?
You have to go there. It's actually smoke-free completely. It's cigarettes and cannabis.
Right.
Even if you're a medical cannabis user, they direct you off the property.
Yeah.
You have to walk a long ways to go off the property out by the highway.
It's like that at all the hospitals here in Ontario, at least.
Smoke-free Ontario Act.
Yeah.
That's for that. There should be an exclusion made in that act for medical cannabis patients.
Absolutely.
Because a patient should not have to walk near a kilometer to go medicate.
No. Especially being a lot of them probably are doing so because they have pain.
Yeah, and you're at the hospital.
Yes,
like you're there for a reason, for medical reasons.
Yeah, and you need to use your medicine, which you can't use inside the hospital. So,
Yep.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy. They implied that my medication could be illegal and that they wouldn't be able to really allow it inside, said Kat from Cardiff, who uses both cannabis buds and oil. They advised I would only be able to take the medication if I left hospital grounds. My main concern at this point was how I was going to leave the grounds to use my medication because I have mobility issues and I'm very vulnerable, especially because of my seizures. After a lengthy discussion where I was made to feel like a criminal, I had to make the decision to leave. It felt quite devastating. It felt unfair. And again, these are real people with real problems. in today's real world.
Absolutely.
When she was first diagnosed, right? And this is not just one person. This is like thousands, probably tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of patients going through the same type of bullshit.
Yeah.
All because voice of medicine is cannabis.
Yeah.
Right? Hashtag make it make sense.
Right.
When she was first diagnosed, Kat was told for the best chance of recovery, she would need to start treatment within 3 to 4 weeks. However, more than 3 years later, treatment still had not begun. And Kat said she relied on cannabis to help control her tics enough to do things like cut up food and brush her teeth. Without being able to take my medication and manage symptoms, I wouldn't have been able to benefit from the treatment that they were offering me. In a letter, North Bristol NHS Trust apologized for her experience, but said she was the first patient they had experienced who wanted to vape cannabis, and they were updating their policy to reflect what to do when this happens again. So that's a good news point on this story.
Absolutely,
and
that's cool.
And patients need to speak up more and not just accept the status quo.
Absolutely.
They need to stand up and say, no, this is wrong. We need to be accommodated in this, right?
Yeah.
And one area where medical cannabis patients said they were seeing more understanding was at gigs and nightclubs. So yeah, that's cool. Yeah, there's another. Let's see, how long does this go on for? Okay, I'll let you finish off the rest of this here.
Okay.
I guess.
I've been able to go to festivals and concerts, things like that, with my cannabis on me, said Shash Appen, who spends at least 200 pounds a month on her cannabis prescription for post-traumatic stress disorder and fibromyalgia. The 29-year-old from Cardiff said she often got funny looks when she headed out into the smoking area on a night out, but when confronted by bouncers, she had always been able to explain it was medical cannabis without problems. One of the main things for me is that I don't have the same degree of night terrors I had before, said Shash, who often uses a wheelchair to get around. I know for some people, the initial effect can be the munchies or laughing, but I'd much rather have that than depressive, possibly sleepy side effects of the opioids. Dr. David Howell's one of the few doctors prescribing medical cannabis, and he said in the NHS he had often seen the harm cannabis could do to patients with history of psychosis. But the former NHS psychiatric consultant believes there is a growing evidence to support the use for other conditions when it's supervised by a specialist doctor. The greatest evidence base is for anxiety and pain, he said. Dr. Howell said his own private patient numbers had grown, but many were afraid about how they would be judged for using cannabis. Concerns about being stopped by police or what they should tell an employer are some of the largest concerns of patients coming to our clinic, he said. Dr. Howell said clinic staff had needed to intervene on a patient's behalf with employers, housing associations, family court, and police describing understanding of the loss around medical cannabis as a possible postcard lottery. The boss of another clinic had to recently intervene on behalf of other passengers on a UK flight after armed police boarded following reports of a cannabis smell. They didn't allow the plane to go before confiscating the medication from the patients and releasing it on the conveyor belt when they got to their destination, said John Robson of online cannabis clinic Medicia. That would be unheard of with any other type of prescription medication. And that's true. You can have a whole pharmaceutical carry-on full of pills. Believe me, been there, done that. But if you got one joint on you, you're fucked. Like, right? You can't have that. You can walk on the plane and possibly even sell your medication on the plane. But, you know, heaven forbid you have your medical
flight more. Right? Pay for your flight more, right?
Yeah, exactly. I make it make sense. Driving under the influence of cannabis is illegal, but there's a medical exemption providing patients have followed the dosages prescribed and do not feel impaired. We always advise them to take their medication out within the pots or packages that would have their names and details. Why would they advise them to take them out of that? Hang on. We advise them to take their medication out within the pots or packages. Okay.
Oh, yeah. So when they're taking their medication out away from the house, to take it within the pots. Yeah.
Yeah, that would have their name and details on it. The Dr. Howell, that would demonstrate they are using legal medicinal product. The Police Chiefs Council said new guidance was being drafted to help alleviate ambiguity for police forces around medicinal cannabis, but reiterated any officer was within their right to stop a driver if they suspected of being unsafe. Both the General Medical Council and Quality and Care Commission pointed us to existing guidelines on prescribing when asked to comment. The NHS has previously said the risks from cannabis products are not currently clear, and the Advisory Council on the Misuse of Drugs are producing a report for the UK government on cannabis-based products for medicinal use. It's due to be published shortly, so stay tuned for that one.
Great. So, things need to change, and it looks like for that one person at that one place that they are relooking at their policies.
Yeah,
which is important. Which I was happy to see that, because change, a little bit of change, and that can be used as a case example too, right? As time goes on, when people realize there's no issues, just like we see with our dry communities like Steinbach and Winkler, in where there's no cannabis stores. Then we reported on that earlier in the first half with Tobagrown. So much time's gone by with legalization now, and all the studies are showing and everything. Research is showing that nothing's fallen, like the sky's not falling down. The earth's not coming to an end.
Right.
With legalization of cannabis, and all their fears were all unfounded on all of those points.
Yeah. Based on, propaganda and misconceptions and
just outright lies. Right?
And
legalization.
Yeah, right?
Legalize.
Yeah.
So anyways, that's the end of our stories for tonight. No, it's not. We have one more story, but I think what we're going to do is we're going to hold that one off till next week, because time has gone on. It's about almost 10 after 9, and we usually try to finish up at around 9. And but we had some great stories here tonight, I think. So we'll let this next one go for next week. And again, I think this last story we did was really cool because, again, it just goes to speak. I know it's over in the UK and not here, but patients here still face the same type of issues.
Absolutely.
Patients everywhere.
Exactly. Until the stigma ends around cannabis for everyone around the world, our jobs aren't done.
Yep. And in fact, medical cannabis users, I've mentioned this before, I'll close off with this. Medical cannabis users tend to get more stigma attached to them for their cannabis use because they're seen as consuming their cannabis, either copious amounts of cannabis in a short period of time, or they're consistently consuming cannabis throughout the entire day.
Right.
But no one questions anyone about their medications that they're taking every day. So many every 4 hours.
Nope.
Like I'm talking about, like someone like in the general public. No one's questioning anyone. You're walking down the street, you see someone walking down. They could be taking 50 pills a day. You'd never know. They could be taking pills. They could be putting the properly prescribed, taking a pill every hour. You'd never know.
Exactly.
But yet, if you were consuming your cannabis every hour or every few hours, that's somehow looked at as you're over consuming. You've got a problem there. No, it's my medicine. It's how I'm staying alive. It's how I'm able to do the shit I can do. I can only sit here and do this show and the shows I do because of smoking cannabis or consuming it in any other forms too, right? Not just smoking. Smoking just happens to be one of the easiest forms to get the medicine in you quickly.
Yep, exactly.
And even then, studies are showing that the smoking of cannabis is not exactly as harmful as we've been told.
Yeah.
In fact, there's a lot of positive benefits that they see in some people where it actually clears up issues within their lungs.
Mm-hmm.
And their lungs are functioning better than someone who doesn't even smoke cannabis or cigarettes, right?
Yeah.
Anyways, just I guess that's it. We've reached the end now, so we'll do that next story next week. So I just want to thank you all for joining us here this week on Ganja News Update on NOK Network, and for tuning into our video podcast on NOK Network's Rumble and YouTube pages, as well as our many social media sites.
That's right, folks. We hope you've enjoyed your update today of mainstream media coverage of cannabis news and information from around the globe.
And many thanks to our sponsors for making this show possible. And don't forget to check them out, folks. And thank you to my joint host right over here, Tara Simpson, and to you, our listeners, for joining us here each week on Meducation Mondays with Ganja News Update on NOK Network. So good night, folks. We'll see you next week, and take care. Peace.
Ganja my meditation, ganja my brain. Ganja weed take away my stress and strain. Ganja my meditation, ganja in my brain. Marijuana take away my stress and pain. Ganja my meditation, ganja in my brain. Marijuana take away the stress and pain. Ganja is the medication, ganja is the cure. Police of them a fight the marijuana for sure. Purify me heavens and they make me feel pure. 100 way to Cali, we be bring it on door. Ganja in the meditation, ganja in my clothes. No offense, I'm smoking marijuana around you. Ganja in me daily, ganja on me currency. Ganja is the currency and daily pay. Give me the revelation, it's not to get too much credit and going. So let the time